What made you walk out of a date? Look forward to new Reddit videos every single day by clicking that subscribe button. Hey, you might as well. It's free. Was on a date with a stunning girl, but turned out to be one of those people who are addicted to their phones. Called her out on it in a playful manner, about her checking Instagram with me sitting right in front of her, and she got super defensive about it, like way too much for what was said, and sat in silence for about 30 seconds, to which I stood up, took my jacket and said, "Well, lovely to meet you, but I've got to bounce." Took a gal to Starbucks, bought us both a drink so we could sit and talk. About 5 minutes into it, she takes a phone call from a co-worker, puts it on speakerphone and begins to savagely shit-talk everyone to work with, on speakerphone, in a small semi-busy Starbucks, both parties cutting up a storm. The barista at the counter asks her to take the call off speaker, as people were trying to study, they were, and she proceeds to argue with the barista about how she can't take it off speakerphone, blah, blah, blah. I instantly got up and apologized to the barista on my way out of the store. Didn't message her, didn't hear from her. I'd say, shit talking in general, is a red flag. People who shit talk with you, are probably also willing to shit talk about you. There are plenty of shit people in this world. Talking about shit people, aka, talking shit, isn't a red flag in and of itself. The entire rest of the story is all red flags though. Of all the things to point out in the story, that's the one I would be least worried about. This. I'd talk shit about someone I genuinely dislike to my friends, but I don't talk shit about my friends to anyone. I talk shit about my friends to their faces. LOL. Pretty much after greeting, she was checking her phone the entire time and only talking about herself, constantly interrupting me. I don't get this. Free food. It amazes me that more men haven't picked up on this being the reason. She was blackout drunk before I got there. Back in college, I was going on a date with this girl. She wanted me to meet her at her sorority house when I got off work around 8. I go there. She is blackout drunk on a couch and wanted to cuddle. I hadn't had anything to drink so I just left. The next day, she asked me why I never showed up. We didn't talk anymore. You told her though, right? People need that type of wake up call. Oh yeah, I told her. Good man. How did she respond? She apologized and whatnot. Wanted to go on another date. And I was like, no. I oversaw her texting her friend, referring to me as a free dinner. So I took her to the shittiest, dirtiest, greasy, spoon type place I could find, and played the most uptight cheapskate arsehole possible, until she walked off. Then I went to my favorite Korean place. The free dinner thing is common these days unfortunately, especially if you're using dating apps. These chicks get like 20 plus matches a week, and there's a good chance that at least one of those guys would be willing to pay the full tab. She had just come back from the bathroom, sat down, and said, "I think black people should have different bathrooms." So, I excused myself to the bathroom, and left. How to speedrun a date, 101. She just kept talking about work endlessly. I tried to change topics, by asking if she had any hobbies. Nope. Just ranted about how work wouldn't let her pursue any. Would just keep on talking about herself, how tired she was because of work, and basically made it seem like she was doing me a favor by coming out on this date, when she could have worked. She did not even ask me any questions. Every now and then, would check her phone and would nod in, and, yeah pretty much. I made up an excuse, and left. Seems like they're really happy in the workforce. Had a date tell me in the restaurant that her boyfriend never takes her anywhere, and the only reason she agreed to come out with me was to make him jealous. This was after we had ordered. Figured she had to call her boyfriend for assistance on that one. Did you tell her she's a piece of trash? Left her in the lurch. Drove her there, after picking her up from her, or his, place. Don't know for certain. She left a scathing voicemail for me. Either way, I felt I was justified in my actions. I went on a date with a girl that brought her sister along. She didn't mention she would bring her. Went to a pub and got a drink. Sat down next to this girl, who was her sister, which they just talked to each other. Then her sister got a call from a friend. which she said to join them. 2 minutes later her friend turned up. This was in the space of 5 minutes, and I had just brought a drink so wanted to finish it, but felt it was too weird. Got up to leave, and they asked if I could buy both the girls drinks. I said sure, went round to the bar, and then just walked out. Didn't feel like I needed to explain myself. What's sad is that I'm sure there are guys with less self-respect than you who would have stayed and bought them drinks all night. It was in my second date with the girl. She invited me to the movies. When we were waiting for the movie to start, she reads a message in her phone and with a beautiful smile tells me, "My parents are joining us for the movie. I want to introduce you. Maybe they will invite you to Christmas." It was August, in a freaking second date. Then I told her that I was not interested on meeting her parents and that I was going home. I wonder if people ever say, or do, these things so that their date leaves. To be honest, I did think that at the time, but she kept trying to go out with me again after that, and a year later, a friend of mine told me he hooked up with her, and she did a similar thing. I mean, she must be desperate. Matched with her on Tinder, and we bonded over our shared love of food. She mentioned not having gone to any good restaurants in town, and was tired of places like Kelsey's or Lone Star. Decided to take her to a really nice place in town, as I had just got my tax returns and could afford a $200 meal. During the date, she talked with me and was engaged, right up to when she ordered her food, an appetizer, wine, dinner, a second dinner for lunch the next day, and dessert. After her order was placed, she took out her phone and spent the next 20 minutes just browsing Instagram, while I tried to talk with her, excused myself to the bathroom, and instead, talked to the waitress. Got her to cancel my meal and dessert, only had my appetizer at that point. Split the bill and paid what the 20% tip for the whole thing would have been, as it wasn't fair for the waitress to lose out on her tip. My phone blew up about 5 minutes later when the waitress told her what was up. See, the funny thing is, I have no problem paying for a date, even if there isn't a spark, if my date at least is engaging or respectful, but being used for a free meal, no, F that. There are more deserving people with less in the world that I'd rather give back to. She ordered lunch for the next day. The hell kind of cheapskate shit is that? Raged at the waiters and servers for cutting a piece of meat wrong. Raged at me for trying to help. I apologized to the waiters and bailed, leaving her with the bill. Must take a spoiled, entitled, ill-mannered person to complain about how their food is cut. I gambled on a fart walking into the restaurant. I had to fake an emergency phone call just so I could go home and change my poopy underwear. LMAO. This is definitely the first one where it was your fault, not hers. Did you return? Was she mad? How did it go? Did you date after that? She could tell I was lying about the emergency. I texted her later that night saying the emergency was resolved, and she called me an asshole, which seemed kinda fitting. Well, my asshole was involved, yes. I got catfished by a girl who has sent me fake photos, and it wasn't even close to her. She immediately addressed this, but in a way that would make it my fault if I had an issue with it, if that makes sense. Like, I know I lied about how I look, but only because I knew you wouldn't date me, and looks are superficial. No problem, let's see who she really is. I wish that was the reason I ran for the hills. She invited like 7 of her friends, as consultants or advisors, and told me to pretend they weren't there, sitting around at a huge table at Toronto's old spaghetti factory, all the while she's asking them advice while we're on a date. Like if I asked her, "What do you do for fun?" she would then turn to her friends and ask them what she should say. After the hardest convo of my life, she then asked if I wanted to watch some special edition Harry Potter with director commentary or something, with all her friends at her house. I made up some random emergency, and we never spoke again.